Thank you for being at the table. I'm Ginger, your host. The idea of at the table is how we think about connection. And when we think about connection, I think of the table because the table is both the literal and the metaphorical way we connect and be our best people. This month's guest, yay! So good. I mean, all the guests are fantastic. In the moment, like, yes. Every time it's like, oh, this is the best one. Oh, this is the best one. Like, no, it's just a whole bunch of besties. Ann Neville and I met a few years ago, and we're going to share the inception story because she told me before we started recording today that our connection actually started some different ripples for her. So, Ann, thank you for being here at the table.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of course, you're my favorite, Ann. And you're married to a Larry too. So what a bonus. Your Larry, my Larry, whatever the Larrys are. Thank you. If you're here live, we really appreciate it. It's good to see those faces. If you're watching it, the recording, then really glad you're here too. And let's jump right in and start with how the heck we met, how we met those years ago and what brought us to today. So how did we meet?
Yeah, so we met, you were asking me just really briefly before we got on about how I came to, using connection and why it was important to me and that sort of thing. So it actually came when I was talking with someone about, at some point where they said, I was kind of doing that, what I want to be when I grow up, because I always do that, like on a regular basis. What do I want to do when I grow up? And someone was talking, a coach friend of mine was saying, and I think this is typical to kind of think about like what you've done over the years and where there's some common threads in the things that you've done. And as I thought about it, the word connection kept coming back to me because as I thought about it, and in every role that I had, it had some sort of connection. I was connecting things, I was connecting people, I was connecting people with things. So that was where I was like, okay, this is my thing. Connection is my thing. Like, I didn't know that was my thing, but as I started to think about it, I was like, connection was my thing. And so around that same time, I was, you know what? I heard you on a podcast. That was it. I heard you on a podcast. So I said, oh, it's really interesting. And look at her. She's talking about that word that that I just realized is my thing. And she's talking about it. And so I remember I went to your website and I saw a summit on connection. And I was like, this is it. This is a thing. And so I remember reaching out to you and saying, I can't believe this. This, like, I thought this was my thing, but apparently it's not just my thing. And you had a whole summit on connection. So that's exactly how we met. So
yeah. Oh, that's fun. I don't, you probably told me about the podcast, but I don't recall that. That's not fresh in my mind that's how you decided to throw the line in the water. And I'm so glad that I saw that. And then you LinkedIn, which I know you're really active on and you're a great community member. In fact, the live guests today, both of you are active community members as well. And what a powerful platform that is for connection if you want it to be. Now, and let's talk about, well, this is my show, so I can say what I want. Well, let's talk about the difference between the C word, connecting, and the N word, networking. How do you think about those two words?
So it's funny because I never really looked at it as necessarily a bad word till I met Ginger.
It's not a bad word. It's not a bad word, y'all.
No, I'm just kidding. But, I think that it is interesting because I do think that people automatically have this like negative feeling if that's somewhere they're not comfortable. When they hear networking, they hear you're going to go and be put into this room to network. Like people just go, oh my God, that's not my comfort zone. Even though I feel like I'm pretty okay with those kinds of things. I even feel uncomfortable when I hear that. And so nobody's ever asked me this question. I've just kind of thought about it on my own and then formed some other opinions and then heard your opinions and was like, yeah, that's kind of how I feel. But I think that, networking to me, like when I feel like when I go to an event and that's what people are talking about, I feel like I'm just passing business cards and trying to create small talk, where I think connection is like having real conversations and then staying in touch with those people. I think that's the thing that I hear a lot from people. I don't know, I'm always good at it, but I try to be. And apparently people tell me I'm good at it, is following up, the follow-up part of it.
Yes.
The part where you actually go, hey, Debbie, I haven't talked to you in a while, but I do try. I do try. Diane, we have talked recently, even though we met a long time ago. So that's the piece of it, is just, not just passing out business cards and feeling uncomfortable and like you're pressed to do this, but actually finding some common ground and then maintaining it.
Yeah.
My first stab at that.
Yeah, that's good stab. I think it's a nice skewer of kebab of some sort.
Yeah.
So you just jogged something. 'Cause I always learn something every time we get to talk. And for the record, Ann and I have worked together with some different engagements and so forth. And it's always been interesting. And you do talk your walk and you walk your talk. I think both of those are in your realm. You know that it matters to you, and you see that it matters to other people too. And I think that what you shared, Anna, is one of the big delineations of what we think about networking. I don't think it's inherently a bad word. It was coined in the modern era in like the early 1900s or late 1880s to mean to build your social capital, which I believe is what we're after in general. And connecting, like you said too, there's a depth to it. There is a different kind of purpose. It's not just, here we go, everybody. Years ago, you're going to laugh at this one, Neville. Years ago, I held a speed networking event. Like, nobody hold this against me anymore. Not inherently bad, but I held one because I was in a cohort of movers and shakers in Des Moines in Central Iowa. And it was fun group. I'm like, I could do this. Had my big studio, had a different company. I'm like, let's do this. 27 people showed up. I'm like, okay, for 3 minutes, it's like on the ball field or something, like, tweet, go. Everybody's running around. You're sitting, and then all of a sudden 3 minutes are up and I tweet, and people get up like, oh, it's like musical chairs. That musical chairs idea, that there's a force pushing us when we're not quite ready, or when we're just getting into something great. Oh, now I got to shift. It's that should and that have to instead of the get to, want to. And you are really good at it. You do it on purpose, just like the subtitle of my book. Why is that? Why is the follow-up and the follow-through, and why is that so significantly meaningful for you?
Oh gosh, it just shows somebody you care, and that it's just that it was on purpose. Like you said, it was on purpose, and that you're maintaining that relationship on purpose. I think that's the best way to describe it. And I feel like you might feel this as well, but sometimes some things it's one of those things where I'm like, doesn't everybody do that? Like, I'm like, isn't that what you're supposed to do? It just comes naturally, usually. And if not, and something I learned from you, I meant to bring my book along and I forgot, is it's okay to disconnect. So that's the thing too. I think that's maybe a difference too. Like if I'm networking, I might be networking and making connections, and I'm going to do air quotes, and then I can disconnect if it's not for me, or I don't think it's for them, and there's not going to be any mutual reason to be connected.
Gold, right? So yeah, is it good for them? Is it something that's going to be productive, meaningful as well? Because maybe somebody else is stumbling along and thinking, boy, I want to go get another refill, or I really don't want to be here, or this isn't my person, or I'm looking to make the sale. The internal dialogue is bonkers. It's like being an LAX.
Right.
So why is it though? Why is purpose so important to you personally, Ann?
So another thing that's really, I think, important to me in my learning that connection is my thing, is that, and somebody's used this as a phrase in a different way, actually, is that I see, like, I just naturally, when I hear somebody say they have a need, or I'm just talking to them and they are sharing things about themselves, I automatically, my brain just starts thinking, okay, who do they need to know? Who do I
Mhm.
need to connect them to? How can I find them? I mean, even if it's something like I've been having really bad migraines lately. I'm like, oh my gosh, who else do I know who has migraines and how can I help them get connected? And they might be able to find the same doctor. Or so I think I just want to help people, it's kind of, well, not to get ahead of myself, but it's kind of what made me create an event that I have is I wanted to connect people that I knew could help each other in some way. So I don't remember now what your question was specifically. So
Why is the purpose? Why is
yeah,
connecting hold so much purpose for you?
yeah, because I think that that's it. I want people to be able to, find the help that they need or be able to help one another because there's so much out. I mean, there's just so many things out there that could help people. So
Right.
it just comes naturally. I just talk to somebody and I go, oh, you should know. And I know you do it too. So, um, yeah, I know I've had somebody else tell me they see when they talk to people, they see stories, I see connections.
Excellent. So, wow, I've got 5 million questions in my head now. Thanks. So you're a listener and you're listening in the seeker space. You're listening to seek a connection to see if there's a way you can provide a solution or some sort of help. Now, nobody wants something pushed on them, which is, I know is not your style.
Mhm.
Have you ever run up against somebody saying, I'm not interested? Because connection is its own ecosystem and some people want networking, some people want connection, some people want, whatever they want. Have you ever run up against that, Anne, where someone like, hey, thanks, no thanks?
Very rarely, yes, but very rarely. And like you said, that's the piece of it is I never just connect somebody without some without some prior information or some, without reaching out and saying, hey, I think I want to connect you with this person, or during the conversation and I say, hey, what do you think about me connecting you with this person? It, every once in a while somebody might say, yeah, no, I don't need that, but I can't think of a whole lot of times. Usually it's an okay. And they usually say, I trust you. I
Mm,
trust who you're going to connect me with. And so I think that's a big piece of it. They know that that's something that I have a knack for. So they trust that who I'm going to connect them with isn't going to be
right.
somebody that
Not the
is
right person. Right.
right.
Well, and that wraps around the how you choose to do that, because I am totally like, sentence me now, because I've certainly been the one in the past, like, oh, Debbie's looking for this. She doesn't even know it yet, but here it is. And Debbie's like, well, where the heck is this coming from? And like, just phone or whatever. How you approach it has everything to do with the ecosystem of connection. So we're talking, especially with newer relationships and newer connections, if I got this right, and please course correct me or expound on it, you are laying the foundation, you're listening, you're asking questions, you're fostering the relationship relatively swiftly if you find this is somebody who you would like to get to know better or be connected with, so that trust, the word you just said, they trust you. So that's starting to be built quickly. Am I on course on that one, Anne?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that, yeah, I think it happens usually pretty quickly. I don't know why, but it does.
Well, those of us who know you do. You are 100% you. There's no phony, there's no forced. It's authentic. And my impression of you in our friendship and our working relationship too is you're empathetic and you're really bringing that to bear. If you were to describe yourself with some words like empathetic, what would some of those words be that help you in your connecting pursuits?
Reliable. Reliable is my number one. It's
Oh,
actually on
really?
my LinkedIn. It's on my LinkedIn cover photo, or yeah, cover photo. is reliability. And that, I mean, I guess that goes back to the trust piece. Like, I think I know that's something I value. I value that in myself, and I value that in other people. And I think that's a really important part of relationships and connection is, and that kind of goes to the follow-up too. You know, I know, Ginger, if I reach out to you, you're going to follow up with me. So that's why we've maintained a relationship.
Right.
Back to the disconnecting. I know, because that's a value that I hold very highly for myself and for those that are in my circle. I know that those are the people I have to disconnect with, because they could be the greatest person in the world, but if I can't rely on them, or I know they're not going to follow through, well, follow up and follow through, I guess that's the other word, is huge for me. And so it's the same way when I connect people. I'm not going to connect you with someone else that I don't think is going to follow up and follow through, because reliability is just at the very top of the list for me.
Right.
So I hope that that's what I exude when I come in contact with people.
Yeah. Did you, Anne, have you read The CEO Next Door?
No.
Or gotten into it? I know you're a big reader as well. I know we have some other readers in the room when we're shooting live today too. CEO Next Door, the number one quality that a board of directors looks for in a CEO, is what you just laid down. Reliability. Interesting. Yeah. No surprise. You're going to do what you say you do. It's that old quote of, well, how do I be successful? You write down what you really need to get done today, and then you do it. that's reliability to yourself, right? Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. Did somebody in the early part of your life, in the early few decades of your life, and did reliability, like when you look back, when you look in your rearview mirror, was there somebody who was reliable, or where did reliability start showing up for you?
Wow, I haven't dug into this. I haven't dug into this, Ginger. My mom raised us primarily by herself. So I don't think that this is a coincidence. I had a dad who left and a mom who raised 4 kids on her own and worked very hard. And I think a lot came from that. I don't think it's a coincidence. I could rely on her.
Yeah.
Could not rely on that person on the other part of the birthing equation. Whoever said that, I just made that up.
Yeah. So there's a deeply personal driver for you on that. Yeah.
And I hadn't thought about it. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah.
Well, and I know that your mother is no longer on this earth, and I know you miss her sorely, and so rest in peace for your mama. It's always interesting to find out where what matters to us comes from. And most of us, I know, Anne, you've done this work. I know the other 2 live guests here, Debbie and Diane, I know that you do this kind of work as well. When we do this kind of work of searching within ourselves to figure out like what's going on with that, and any kind of emotion, it's sticky, it's uncomfortable, there is discomfort. At the same time, growth doesn't happen in a comfort zone. There's no such thing. I mean, yeah, okay, that's a Vanessa Williams album from years ago, but other than that, the comfort zone doesn't exist, my friend. So thank you for being willing to share that, because connection is deeply personal if it's truly connection. When you think about how you currently connect with people now, what a few years after you had that, connection is my thing. Let's hashtag that for Anne Neville. Connection is my thing. What kind of evolution have you seen in yourself in your connecting efforts?
Oh, evolution. I think that the things that we've just talked about today have been huge. I mean, I just thought about it today, like all the things that have just happened, even in 2022, for me, are all because I decided to acknowledge that I am interesting. I decided to acknowledge that
you are.
that
Fascinating
people,
guy.
yeah, I used to, it's funny because I was telling someone else too. I was like, I remember having a conversation in 2019. I mean, I can like pinpoint it, the conversation where I was telling someone, I was inviting them to an event. And I said, oh, all the other people that are going to be there are really interesting. I'm like, I'm not so interesting, but I hang out with a bunch of interesting people and they're really interesting. To today, where I acknowledge that people actually like me and want to hang out with me and find me interesting.
Yes.
And what you said before, and just acknowledging and owning, my empathy, my authenticity, my loyalty, that reliability piece, like owning all of that is the evolution for me. And so it makes me more comfortable I mean, I've never really been that person that's met a stranger. Like I talk to pretty much anybody, but even more so now, like I will reach out to anybody and just, and feel, I should say, actually, I'll reach out to them. I used to reach out to them with a little, and say things like that, like I'm not very interesting, but I know a lot of other people are interesting.
Yeah.
No, I'm just, but the good news is that's the evolution. I went from,
Right.
I would reach out to them, but I may not have that confidence that it was me that they wanted to meet.
Right.
But now I will reach out and acknowledge that it is okay, but that I'm sufficient to meet.
Absolutely.
And I know a lot of other people, it's the combination. So that's huge. I mean, I think that's been the evolution for me.
Yeah, that is so good. That is so good. When we know that we're not just seen, valued, and heard, we see ourselves, we value ourselves, we hear ourselves, we know that we have some interesting life. Everybody's got interesting life experiences. That comes from somewhere else too. We'll leave that for another day.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of different connecting practices. You are very intentional about your connections. And I'm so damn glad you reached out to me, because this has been really, really fun. It was fun to work together. It's fun to be friends. I mean, we've done a bunch of things. We've broken bread and eaten food together and so forth too. So what I'd like to go and get after next is, what are 3 specific connecting practices that you would share with us?
Connecting practices.
And it can be as simple as, well, whenever I use LinkedIn, I do this, or when I'm walking down the street or I'm in the coffee shop, I do this, or this is how I think about it. It can be just a particular piece of your connecting, because I know you got a whole world of it.
Yeah. So I would think, just for connecting for myself, right, is what we're talking about, I think.
Yes.
So for myself, when it comes to things, whether it's LinkedIn or it's seeing somebody, it's funny because I was thinking about this recently and trying to decide if is this stalker behavior or is this research behavior?
There is a difference, folks. Yeah.
It's research. It is clearly research and investigative behavior. I like to learn as much as I can about people to determine whether or not that connection is going to make sense. And sometimes it can be, so when you ask the question, and I'm not good at the, 1, 2, 3, but I'll try.
I'll bring you back.
So if it's on LinkedIn, that can look like, reading somebody's profile and seeing if there's things that we're going to have in common. And it can be something as simple as they didn't do this the way that I feel really strongly about. And the best example I can give you is like things that I know that are really important to me that are gonna be on my profile or on somebody else's profile that will exude trust. That's not a good example because I don't want to give all the little minute details that goes on in Anne's brain when she's looking at somebody's LinkedIn profile. But there are certain things that will trigger me that'll be like, oh no, that's not somebody that, like, that's something that I wouldn't do.
Sure.
because
Sure.
it's going to send the wrong message. And so I automatically go, okay, that's not going to work for me. That's not going to be somebody that I
And
can
to be
connect with.
clear, because I know you're not judging, you're choosing. You're making a choice.
Correct.
You're not making a judgment.
Correct.
There's a difference. You're
Correct.
looking for something and you're realizing what is and what isn't. Okay.
Right,
So
right. So that's what I was trying to be really careful about. And so thank you for
Yeah.
bringing up that.
Yeah, there's a
judging
big
me, because
difference. Yeah.
not
So,
at all.
right. So you want to learn about people. What's another part of your fabulous connecting brain? Maybe you want to donate that to the Smithsonian when you're done with it.
Shoot, that was it. That's all I got.
Oh, stop it. I could fill in the blanks, but it's for you.
I know. Yeah. So I first want to make sure that there is a good solid reason and that we have some things in common.
Okay.
The second is going to be, yeah, I'm stumped. I'm sorry. I'm a bad.
Well, what do you do next? Once you
What do I do
realize
next?
you find
Okay.
somebody, let's do it in that way.
So if I find somebody, I always, okay, so this is great. So I'm going to use LinkedIn mostly. Always include a message. I say always, except for those times when, and I don't know if anybody else has ever done this. I guess this is a tip, perhaps for some people like me, that you can accidentally hit send request when you're doing it on your mobile phone.
Yes.
Because you don't see the extra, you have to take kind of an extra step when you're on your phone versus
Right.
on a computer. Because when you're on a computer, it automatically prompts you, do you want to add a note?
Right.
But you have to take the step first if you're on your mobile phone.
Okay.
And it always just irks me when I'm like, oh, no, I accidentally sent the request without a note.
Right.
But I
Okay.
can't, but that's the thing, I can't send, but then at that point you can't send a message because you've already sent, I mean, unless you're on some special account that I don't have that you can send a message to people. But
LinkedIn would sell that to you.
yes, that's what I'm saying. So I don't have whatever that is that I can do that. So that's really important to me, is to send a message, but also, have it be a little more personal than
Right.
you and I know some of the same people.
I'd like to add you
we
to
should
my
be
network.
connected.
I don't care. Tell me why.
Yeah. Yeah. So now that you've got me think about this, that's really what it's all about too. Is like, then you share with people why you think you should be connected, whether it's in person or in a LinkedIn message. It's what is our common bond? It can be incredibly silly, or it can be very professional.
Yeah.
I prefer silly, but
right. We're all one and the same too. And people are really drawn to authenticity, like you are so good at too, Anne. So, all right. So you learn about people, you want to find some common ground, which there's always more common ground than there's differences. The next thing is, when you invite, you send a personal message, not one of the automated ones, something that gives that person an idea that you're not a stalker, that you're interested in what they're doing. And then what's another step forward?
Well, also to that second piece too, is just to show them that, like, yeah, I'm curious about them. So the third step is the piece that I said before, is the follow up. And yeah. And
so how do you follow up? You send the invite with a personal note. Do you reply when you see somebody has accepted your invitation, or what do you do, Anne?
I can't say I do. I apologize.
You don't have to apologize.
Yeah. So, I just try to, I would say, once I'm connected and there's actually a connection, then just being really mindful about following up.
Okay.
And staying in touch with people.
Okay.
It's really, yeah, I would say that actually, now that I'm just thinking about it, LinkedIn has made it harder on us to do those things, because you do connect with so many more people that trying to stay connected, you can't stay connected.
Okay. So let's go into that for just a moment, because how do you decide when somebody invites you? How do you decide to say, yes, I'm interested, or no, I'm not?
Yeah, they have those things. Like, there's something, again, that connects us, not just, definitely don't connect with somebody who doesn't know what I do or hasn't even read my profile and says something completely off track. So yeah, so if it's something that I know, again, it's not I'm not always in it for something for me, but just that there's something there that I'm curious about, or, so it may not be an automatic, like, oh, I see the connection here, but it could be that I'm curious. I want to learn more, and maybe there is some sort of connection. I do think that's the other thing I would say, and that's why I brought up curiosity, because I was thinking that's another reason why I connect with people, is I'm just truly curious. Like, and I'll try to even put it in my message. Like, you may not see the connection. I mean, I won't say in those words, but in my head, I'm thinking, I really need to say something more to this person, because they're probably wondering, and it's the same thing. And, I put myself in, I've gone to interesting, different events or things that, and I'm smiling because I'm thinking of you, Ginger, too, because I feel like you do that too. I'm not afraid to put myself in an event or a situation or somewhere where somebody might be like, why are you here? I'm just like, oh, I'm here. You never know who you're going to meet.
The room is better with me here.
Yeah. So I kind of have that same approach on LinkedIn or other ways of connecting, that I look around and I'm like, oh, wow, that's really fascinating. I feel like I should know this person because I want to learn more about that.
Yeah. So good. So good. All right. So you're learning about them. You're finding commonalities. You're sending a personal message, which I highly recommend. I'm getting really particular. Unless you put any kind of message, I'm like, why? Unless there is an immediate and such an obvious, like 2x4 in the face connection, then, and I'm still going to go and look at their profile. Like, oh, this Diane Allen, like, yeah, what about her? I want to see. And I scroll down, and then you stay in touch. You're choosing how you want to stay in touch, which I want to give everybody here watching this a permission slip. It's also in my connectivity can in the book. It's no, it's not by Kermit. It's over there. Anyway, Kermit likes the book though. Is that you get to decide how you stay in touch. What is that frequency? What is the rhythm, as I like to call it? And like you, we have established a strong relationship, a strong friendship, starting with the work relationship, and we'll text each other, or we'll send an audio message or a video message. And it's the reliability and the trust that when we need or want, or simply want to share, that is there, and that's a rhythm that works for us. So I so appreciate you sharing that. And I'd like to open it up if our live guests have any questions or comments or additives, because the live guests in the room right now are quite brilliant. I welcome you to unmute yourself and go ahead and either ask Anne a question if you have one, or if there's a thought that's been jogged in your head and you want to share. I can see the smoke coming up. Feel free. I mean, we'll keep going, but if you do, just jump right in. So that is fair game. Do you, as you look forward, Anne, are there ways that you want to increase or improve your own connecting skills?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think that it's interesting because when you were talking just a minute ago, it reminded me too of something that I think is also important, that I don't give as much credit to, and maybe other people don't either, is, like I said, that I may not always be good at the follow-up, and I will reach out to someone when they're on my mind. I will send that message that just says, hey, just thinking about you, or, hey, you were on my mind today. Those things we probably don't give ourselves credit for, but they're huge. They mean so much that, and so I think two things: either we don't give ourselves credit for that as a follow-up, and two, we sometimes don't do it because we just don't. So I just kind of go with that. If I'm feeling it, it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I encourage everybody, to use that practice that Anne's talking about. I saw something that Dan Pink put out in one of his Pink casts recently. He says, if you're thinking of that person and you haven't talked to him for 3 years or whatever, and why aren't you basically like reach out? They want to hear from you. It's not weird. It's not funky. It's like, it's life and it's human nature. And to your comment earlier is how you say LinkedIn and really any platform where it becomes this influx and this numbers game. How do we create and maintain authentic, meaningful connection? Dunbar's rule, which is in my book, there's only 150 relationships you can really keep your finger on. You can know and know of lots of people. And really, to put the energy in is that investment. It's the Howell principle as I teach it. It's an investment, not a spend. I would like to wrap up our show, and we can talk for hours, which we have before. And I'm looking forward to the next time we get to do that. My closing question is this. Who would you like to have at your table to talk with and connect with?
Who, just anybody?
Anybody who's
talk and
interesting to
connect
you.
with?
Yeah, say, gosh, I'd love to have this person at my table.
Oh gosh, I always stink at this.
I'll turn that around. This is a good challenge for me.
Yeah. There's so many, because like I just said, that's why I said it's hard for me, because I'm always so curious, and there's always, so I'm trying to
You
think
can have
of
a
somebody
banquet,
that-
Anne. I'll cook for you. You can have a banquet.
I know. You know who it always comes top of mind for me, maybe just because they're in my Instagram feed all the time, are Glennon Doyle and Abby Wambach.
Mhm.
Yeah, even though she wears those colors, she used to wear those colors that I said that I'm representing today that I don't agree with, that are from she went to the University of Florida. I'll just say that my rival
Right.
college team.
You'll give her some
But
great.
I find them fun and interesting, and I would enjoy hanging out with them. They
Outstanding.
like to dance in their kitchen and stuff, like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
that's all good stuff. So that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
But there's lots of people.
Okay. Well, we'll see what we can do about that. I saw Abby take the cup in 15 with the team, with the USA team. It was
Awesome.
unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
Awesome.
And Neville, I love it whenever you're at the table. I love being at your table, and I appreciate you making the time, the space, and the grace, your friendship, and everything you shared today. Thank you for being here. Can't wait